Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Catholic Truth Podcast, where we teach and preach the Catholic faith, which comes to us from Jesus and the apostles. And as you know, we have guests on this channel who are experts in their field or who are doing great work in the fields of apologetics and evangelization, or just keeping the faith in some way. And today, January is Pro-Life Awareness Month in our church, and it's the National March for Life, as we know. And so we like to focus a little bit more on pro-life issues. And today we have Missy Stone, and her organization is Reprotection. And Missy Stone was involved since she was 14 in the pro-life movement. And in fact, she's going to be speaking at the March for Life this year. So this has been her endeavor forever since she was 14. She ended up getting a degree in political science because she wanted to make it her life's work. And she was the president for Students for Life of America and eventually became the national field director. And now she travels the country teaching and preaching on pro-life, training young people, countless young people all over the country, equipping them, training them. And she's been in the New York Times, Washington Post, and many other media outlets. And now she has, over the last few years, I think it was 2019, she helped found an organization called Reprotection, which she's going to tell you about. And they are shutting down the abortion industry and helping to protect the rights and hold these people accountable. She's now the CEO and she lives in Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm excited to have Missy on the show with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Missy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you about what we do.
Yes, absolutely. What do you do? I mean,
what do I do?
Some people hear reprotection and they're like, what does that mean? But
what is that?
Yeah, because from when I heard about you from Christine Payne, she was like, yeah, they've helped close down abortion agencies. They help get pro-abortion doctors who aren't following the rules, like fired forever, different things like that. So I was like, wow, it sounds like they're on like the inside doing a lot of the dirty work to help the pro-life cause. Against people who are truly doing the dirty work. But why don't you tell us what you do and about your organization?
Yeah, so essentially we help pro-life community members or Catholic community members, anybody who is interested in having a abortion-free community. We help them investigate and close down the abortion business closest to them. So we provide strategy and research, and we look at each situation and we say, what is the most effective way to move forward so that we can close the doors of this facility? And so we've been able to come alongside a number of sidewalk advocates, pregnancy center directors, people that are doing the frontline pro-life work, and help them investigate and close down the abortion facility in their neighborhoods.
So that's super interesting, actually. Could you tell us more, how do you hold abortion agencies or abortion doctors accountable? Like what's going on in the world that they even need to be held accountable? Like what are they doing wrong, let's say?
So in the past, I would say 10 years, different states have been passing a lot of abortion regulations. We've had pro-life legislators in office that regulate abortion to the same standard as basic medical industry. But the abortionists do not want to be regulated in any way. They want a free pass. They want to be able to do whatever they want. And so any kind of regulation that they are up against, they will fight. They do not want to have any kind of rules. They don't want to meet the same standards that surgical facilities have to meet. And so the states are passing laws to say, no, you have to meet the same standards at any other medical, any dental facility, tattoo parlor, all these places that the health department regulates, you have to meet those same standards. But what's happening is, depending on who is in the office responsible for enforcing those laws, if they don't agree with it, or if they don't want to deal with it, they just don't enforce them. So we had all of these pro-life laws on the books, technically, but whoever was sitting at the desk of the health department, if they did not want to regulate abortion, if they didn't want to deal with the pushback of the abortion industry, they just turned a blind eye. And so we had these cases where these abortion businesses were operating dangerously, were openly breaking the law, were operating in ways that were physically harming women, traumatizing women, even more so than the abortion experience itself. And nobody was holding them accountable. The government agencies weren't getting involved when they were supposed to. So we fill that gap. We go in, we use open records, we use client testimonies, whatever information that we can find out. How are these facilities breaking the law? And then we take it to the appropriate agencies and we demand action from them. And if we don't get what we want, we take it above their heads and above their heads and above their heads. And we've made it to several governors' offices saying, your abortion businesses have gone rogue. They are not, these places are dangerous. So the case that got it all started was actually in Indiana, where the abortionist Ulrich Klopfer, if you remember, he was the one that passed away a couple of years ago when they found the remains of the babies in his car, in his garage. This was this gentleman when he was still practicing. He was doing abortions on minors, on young girls that were victims of abuse, and not reporting it to Child Protective Services, which by law in Indiana, you had to, but nobody was paying attention to his reports that he was turning in, where it said that he did not report these to Child Protective Services. And so he had sent young girls back into their abusive situations after doing abortions on them. Wow. And our founder, Kathy Humbarger, discovered this using public records and had him taken before the medical board, and his license was suspended, which he decided it wasn't worth the work to get it back, and he closed 3 of his facilities in Indiana. So it's figuring out what the laws are, how are they breaking them, and then taking it to the appropriate agencies to make sure they're being held accountable.
Wow, not one agency, but 3 agencies.
3 different businesses in Indiana. Wow. Yeah.
So that's a lot of babies saved, isn't it?
Yes. He was probably one of the more prolific abortionists in Indiana at the time. So it was a huge impact on the lives of women and children there.
That's so interesting. So abortion doctor gone forever, 3 agencies closed, no abortions. And I mean, imagine if we could replicate that throughout the country, that would be amazing. And I know that's your goal there, isn't it?
That was the exact conversation that was had. Kathy was able to do this in Indiana, and it got the attention of some national pro-life leaders and said, you're on to something here. Let's see if we can replicate it and take what you did in Indiana and do it other places. Thus, reprotection was born. We said, okay, this is a winning strategy. And so we tested it out, and the demand was so immediate. People, the local community said, we've needed this. We have all this information. We don't know what to do with it. And so it just pretty much exploded from there. We incorporated in January of 2020. And since then, we've seen 2 facilities shut down.
Wow, so, that's great.
Yeah. It's been really, really exciting.
If you existed back in the day, I could have given you a few more facilities, because, we saw some really bad things, and people have, really unethical things. It's interesting that you say that, Planned Parenthood claims to love women, claims to want to, work for women's health and healthcare. And what you're finding is, in many ways, the abortion industry is just the opposite of healthcare, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. There's a quote from Father Frank Pavone. He says, you can't practice vice virtuously. And that is what we see. If these businesses are willing to take the lives of the most innocent human beings, they're not going to have any trouble skirting the law. And so most of the violations that we see have to do with getting women in and out faster, doing more abortions. So we had a case in Georgia where the physician was putting 10 women into a room and giving them all the abortion pill at the same time. How is that a private decision between a woman and her physician? using the talking points of the abortion industry. Or we had our case in Florida, the physician that we closed, he was trying to hold women down on the table who were saying, please stop, or she was saying, I can't breathe, because she had a reaction to the anesthesia. And instead of addressing her physical need, saying that she was having trouble breathing, he was just trying to hold her on the table to do the abortion. So we see that it is all about how many abortions can they do, how quickly can they get them in and out. We had another case in North Carolina. The patient went back to the facility with complications, saying, I'm bleeding a lot, like I'm concerned. And they were like, you've already been in and out. This is not our problem anymore. Go to the ER. Like, there's nothing we can do. And by the time she got to the emergency room, she had to have a transfusion because she had lost so much blood. And the staff member at the abortion facility literally told her, you're in and out of here. Like, we're done with you. It is not about caring for women. It is not about, comprehensive care, pregnancy care. All they want to do is abortions, and they want to do as many as possible, even if it's at the expense of women's health. And the stories that we hear are just absolutely gut-wrenching. And a lot of these patients don't know what to do. They don't know that they have options. They don't know that they can complain to a medical board or, take it to the health department. And that's where we step in and say, you have options. Because getting a medical malpractice lawsuit is really difficult. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of these cases don't meet that standard, but somebody needs to tell the medical board or, whatever agency's in charge of what's going on. And so we help walk them through that process.
Yeah, we remember all of those other undercover. I'm sure you remember those in Planned Parenthood when, they went in undercover with cameras and they exposed all of the really evil stuff that they're doing, trafficking and many other things. I mean, they pose as this wonderful organization. They pose as someone who just wants to help women, but then underneath, they're actually hurting women just as much. Yes. They're hurting women. They say, oh, we need to care about women. It's all about women, women's rights, women's this, and yet they're hurting women. They're destroying women in many ways. Mm-hmm. And it's really an evil kind of cover up that has been exposed in many organizations. And in fact, Abby Johnson, I'm sure you know her. Yes. She was a top Planned Parenthood worker and voted Worker of the Year in Planned Parenthood, and ended up just seeing how Planned Parenthood changed. It made it all about the money. As many abortions as you can fit in. We don't care about this or that. We just want more abortions, more abortions, more abortions. And she was like, well, I thought they were supposed to be rare, and this and that. She's like,
safe, legal, she got into trouble for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we saw, it was even more telling when Cecile Richards stepped down as the president of Planned Parenthood. A physician was appointed to that position, and Leanna Wynn, I think was her name, and she wanted to take a more comprehensive approach to women's health care, mental health care, and she wasn't basically beating the drum of abortion hard enough, and they removed her because she wanted to take a more comprehensive role. And she didn't even last a year. They removed her. It sounded like it was a really, really nasty breakup. But even when someone came in and tried at Planned Parenthood leadership to provide real healthcare for women, they were ousted. So they've showed their hand plenty of times that it is not at all about women's care, women's health care. Yeah. They're about abortion, and that's it.
And that's ironic, Missy, because all the pro-abortion rhetoric, the talking points and such, they'll all say, pro-life people don't care about women. Pro-life people only care about babies. When in fact, what you just said is, and I've heard this many times too, is that when a woman has problems or complications, she goes back, they're thrown out. Or like Abby Johnson couldn't even walk. And they said, too bad, your 2 hours are up. Bye. And it's like, but what are the pro-life organizations doing? They're helping women in their crisis. They give them all the counseling, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all free many times. And they give them diapers, clothes, baby carriages. When was the last time Planned Parenthood gave them anything. And yet pro-life organizations across the country are helping women in their actual need, all with whatever they need. My church alone gives away free clothes, baby carriages, housing, and whatever a woman needs, they're there for them by their side. And I don't see that in the abortion industry.
And I'll give you two more really, really practical ways that the pro-life community shows up. We've had two separate cases where a woman has come out of a facility, abortion facility, in distress, in physical distress, and the facility won't call 911 for them. And so who calls 911? The sidewalk counselor, the pro-lifer. Yeah. And if they weren't there, who would have gotten them help?
Yeah.
You know, and these people's lives were saved because faithful pro-lifers were out on the sidewalk. And so they will even go as far as they don't want to draw attention. They don't want to admit that they have complications, and will turn away patients that are in distress. And thankfully, faithful pro-life advocates were outside and called 911 for those women and got them help.
Yeah. You know, it's such a good versus evil scenario here that you've embarked in. You've literally decided to beat on the door of the devil's domain.
Tell me about it.
I mean, I went to a Catholic college in Ohio, and every single Saturday morning we would wake up at 6 a.m. and between 100 to 600 students would show up at the abortion mill every single month. We closed down all the abortion mills in that area of the Midwest, except for this one, which was like the big one where everyone came to. Prayed week after week after week. And the people from that abortion mill used to come out and yell at us, scream at us, swear at us. Even the cops would threaten to take off their badge and come off duty and beat us up. I mean, you wouldn't believe the evils that we've heard. And all we did was sing and pray and love them anyways, you know. And it's just when you go to the March for Life, and if anyone out there listening has not gone to the March for Life, check it out. It is so powerful and so sad, but just thousands and thousands of people singing, with loving, praying, and the people who yell at us and, you know, say the nastiest, meanest, most vile and evil things. You can clearly see the difference between good and evil, dark and light, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah. What I've noticed, like I've been doing this work, like you said, since I was 14. So we're coming up on about 16 years. And what I see on the abortion advocate side is a lot of pain, a lot of pain. Most of these people are post-abortive, have had trauma experiences. And the only way they know how to respond is just anger, because if they admit that what they did was kill their child, they can't handle the grief, and it just overflows out of them, and just vitriol, hatred, you know. And it's really sad. So you kind of have to have some tough skin. I've had some things said about me, said to my face, you know. It's just comes with the territory.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
I mean, you have to go into some dark places, and kind of at the beginning when you said, do I like what I do? I like what I do, but you know, a lot of the stories that I hear are heartbreaking, are disturbing, are you know, grotesque, you know, some of the experiences that these women are having. And so I have to center myself, you know, stay covered in prayer. And we have a prayer team on our board that we send, hey, you know, please pray for this, because it is a dark place to be ministering.
Yeah.
We have targets on our back for sure.
For sure. So thank you for doing what you're doing, for sure. Can you give us some examples perhaps of how other people are breaking the law and why you hold them accountable? I know, for example, sometimes, you know, there's supposed to be laws where, you know, there have to be a certain age, you know, or whatever, but can you give us some of these laws that they're breaking?
Sure. So one of the most common ones that we see is having unqualified staff doing things that they are not licensed to do. So we see that pretty across the board, because the abortion facilities will do anything they can to save a buck, and to pay somebody who is actually qualified in their field costs more money. So they love to take office managers, administrative assistants, and have them do medical work. We had cases in Georgia where the lab technicians were not actually lab technicians. They were not licensed to do lab work, and yet they were drawing blood. We had a case here in Kentucky where the office manager was doing medical informed consent, which is the conversation you have to have before you have any kind of surgical or medical procedure. The doctor has to tell you, this is what's going to happen to you. These are the risks involved. And then you have to sign off and say that it's okay. You've informed me and I've consented, but you have to be a medical professional to have that conversation. And she was illegally calling herself saying that she had a license when she didn't.
Wow.
And so they had their office manager doing medical informed consent. We had that stopped very quickly. We've had cases where people were hired again as secretaries doing ultrasounds, doing all kinds of work that they aren't qualified to do. And so one of the big things to look for is, what are the credentials of the people working there and what are they doing? Because something we see constantly is that they are putting people in positions that they have no business being in. So that's one. Then you have mandatory reporting. So Planned Parenthood has been caught doing this multiple times. We've seen this as a trend of the medical personnel not reporting to Child Protective Services when they see a patient that's under 16. Consent laws differ state to state, but generally, if you're under 16, you have to tell Child Protective Services if you're treating a patient that's pregnant. Depending on the situation, you let Child Protective Services decide whether or not she's a victim of abuse or not. And Planned Parenthood does not like reporting those things. So that's something that we look for.
I heard that before if you can think of another one, that's fine. But I've heard that they're doing abortions on girls that are like 12 years old and telling nobody.
Yeah,
like that sounds like a crime to me, but
it is a crime. Yeah. If you're a medical professional, you're a mandatory reporter. And that's a law in every state that says if you see a patient that is under 16, you have to tell Child Protective Services and let them decide whether or not it's abuse, especially if it's someone as young as 12 or 13. But if they are reporting to, because there's been cases that was discovered in Colorado where the father who was abusing his daughter was taking his daughter to the abortion facility, and it was not reported. And he was able to, it's terrible. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And so we find ways to figure out what's going on and get that into the hands of the people who need to know.
Wow. And I'm so glad you are. Thank you for that again. Now, I don't want to assume, but why don't they report these things? Is it just that they're too lazy? Do they not want to have someone tell them what to do? Is it about the money? They don't want to lose the money. What do you think? What do you see from your end?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speculate. Part of it might be they don't want to do the paperwork. If they're just trying to get abortions in and out, that's just extra work to do. But what I think is maybe more of the issue is that if they're reporting and people know they are reporting, they're going to have people who don't want to come. So they'll have the patients will say, well, if I go, they're going to report my situation. And so I think from their end, they're saying, well, if we start reporting, then young women aren't going to feel comfortable coming to us, which means less business. So that's kind of the speculation. Like I said, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine it has to do with business profits.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. Is there a pro-life? I mean, this is National Pro-Life Month. Is there a pro-life message that you love or that you want to share with our listeners? Or do you think that's important for them to know what's going on in our country right now? Like 2022, there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. Yeah, we are in a very, very interesting place nationally. And, I grew up going to the Supreme Court pretty regularly, praying and protesting and going to the March for Life. And I always imagined that I would see the day when Roe versus Wade, the decision that legalized abortion, in the United States that I would see it overturned. But I did not imagine it would be so soon, because these are conversations that are happening now with the makeup of the Supreme Court. They're setting themselves up to possibly reverse Roe versus Wade. But what that means is it's being kicked back to the states. So even if Roe versus Wade is reversed on a federal level, that does not mean abortion is over. It just means it's going back to the states, and every state can decide at that point how they want to handle it. So you're going to have states across the board. So states like New York, California, and Illinois have already completely undone any kind of abortion regulation in their state. There's no reporting, no oversight, nothing in those states, because they don't want to regulate it in any way. Whereas
and do you try to hold them accountable for that?
We have creative ways. So we look at different, so in states that aren't going to regulate abortion specifically, they regulate other things. Like they regulate their water quality, they regulate employees' safety. There are ways around it where we look at different regulations, like how are they handling their medical waste, things like that. So there's still ways to look into those states, but you're going to have states that go completely one way, and then you're going to have other states like here in Kentucky, where if Roe versus Wade is overturned, we have a contingency law that immediately makes abortion illegal in Kentucky. And so our work is going to have to start with making sure that in the states where abortion becomes illegal, that it's being enforced, because you're going to have people who don't agree with it. And so they're going to turn a blind eye, and they're going to let physicians do illegal abortions. And so our work is just going to get started. Right. So amazing where we are with Supreme Court. It's so exciting. I think as a nation, we're seeing a trend towards pro-life views as science has, advanced, and we're seeing the human person in the womb. More and more people are identifying as pro-life. And so we're seeing that shift nationally, but the fight is really going to be on the state level, and whether or not these states regulate abortion, how they're regulating it and enforcing the laws that are on the books. So it's an exciting time, but we've got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, you're jumping into the deep end. No,
yeah,
but good. We need that. Praise God.
I wish I could retire, but I don't see that in my future anytime soon.
No, not anytime soon. But that, maybe if you, grow and hire a whole bunch of people who can, help you.
That's the goal.
Tenfold.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I'm thankful for everything that you guys do. I'm thankful. That's hard work. It's difficult work. And you guys are right on the front lines. You're right.
Yes.
You're right in the war, and it is a war. And so I want to thank you for doing what you're doing. I'm sure it's in many ways a thankless job. So I want to thank you, and, praise God for what you're doing. And thank you for all the babies you're saving, all the women you're helping, and for the future generations, just to make hopefully this, civilization a little bit more moral.
Yes. I just like, can we stop ending lives? Like, why is that the thing? Why is that the answer, to so many issues? Why does our society jump to ending human life? I just hope and pray and, do my part to change minds that we have to do better. We have to think better, and provide solutions. So happy to do the work, but it's hard. And like I said, our demand has just exploded. We have people from all over the country reaching out to us with horrific stories that we investigate, that we research and strategize with them. And like I said, we've had our hand in helping close 2 facilities already. And, we're looking for people to come alongside what we're doing. We're looking for volunteers who love to research. It's for some people, the idea of going to a march or standing with a sign might sound really intimidating. and, very in your face. If you're not confrontational and you love to read, I have a job for you. I always say, like, calling all pro-life introverts who want to say, we read 400 pages of legal code, and
Wow.
we're researching laws and pulling physician licenses. So there's a lot that you can do administratively, research wise, behind the scenes. If people are interested, we need help. Like I said, our demand has just exploded. We went from 5 investigations to 44 in a matter of, I don't know, 6 months. And so we're trying to keep up, but it's been really exciting.
And you'll probably go from 44 to 100 in the next 6 months.
Probably. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, I remember Mother Teresa shocked the world when she said that she would never, ever raise a kid in America. And she's like, well, a lot of the world has a poverty of food. America has a poverty of love. First world countries in general have a poverty of love. If you're willing to kill your own child, how can you call yourself a moral civilization?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's powerful.
It is powerful. And it's so true. It's so true. But I have hope. I'm feeling hopeful that we're moving in the right direction, and we just have to keep bringing light to this, and shining that light in those dark places and saying, hey, the abortion industry does not care about women. Don't let them lie to you. Don't let them fool you. They do not care. They are not on your side, and hopefully save more and more women from going down that road.
Amen. And one of my goals here, I hope, is to here at Catholic Truth, we want to bring on Lila Rose and kind of have her undercover experience and a lot of the stuff that she's
got a lot of stories to tell.
A lot of stories. And so that would be great. All of you guys are doing such great work. So thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. She was really excited to hear about what we were doing. She was really, really excited.
Good. Yeah, she's wonderful. So we'll attach your a link to your reprotection.
Yeah, we've got our website. Yeah, you can go on, you can learn a little bit more about us. There's different ways you can partner with us. We're looking for, like I said, volunteers or supporters. We are an official 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we can't do this work without our partners and our supporters. So we need to expand, and we need to grow our network with us. So if you're interested in what we're doing, happy to connect and show you how you can get involved.
Amen. And thank you. And everyone else who's watching, check out that website down below. We will link it down below here in the show notes. Follow Missy Stone for sure. And also follow Catholic Truth. If you want to follow us, if you haven't yet, why? I mean, follow us already on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, or whatever your social media platform preference is. If you haven't checked out our Catholic Truth podcast or YouTube channel in depth, check out our videos, check out our podcast, see what we do. We interview a lot of people. We have, if you like this video, I have a lot of pro-life videos on here, including 3 videos breaking down the top 10 or 15 pro-choice arguments and answering them one by one, because there's really no good reason to be pro-choice. And when we say pro-choice, we mean pro-murder of babies. And so check that out if you want, and please support Missy and her organization, and feel free to support us and our organization. I can guarantee you this video will not be monetized. YouTube will not let it be. So if you would love the work if you love the work we do, please consider supporting us, and please support Missy as well. They need your help as well. So thank you all for watching. Please keep us in your prayers, as we are always praying for you. God bless you.